Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating nature-inspired watercolours in my studio, which are easy for you to do too. I share all my paintings with you on YouTube, and on our website dianeantone.com you can find free downloadable sketches for all the videos to help you make the most of your painting journey. And if you'd like a little bit more, we also have channel memberships with loads of perks for you to enjoy. So welcome on board. Click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolour. Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my studio. I hope everyone's well in this difficult time that we're all still going through. Today I thought I would have a go myself for the first time at painting a galaxy because you see a lot of these around, and I thought it might be quite interesting to give it a try. Something that doesn't resemble anything particular but might be quite interesting to paint. You know how a lot of people paint flowers a lot of the time, and they do that because I think they do that because that way you don't have to worry about making it look like anything particular. It just has to look pretty. So therefore it's kind of, what would you call it, relaxing or something like that, because you don't worry, oh my God, that doesn't look like my dog, or whatever. So this is a similar sort of thing. So I'm just going to test out some colours here to show you what ones I'm going to be using. I've got a very cheap brush here, but it's actually rather good. It's an Arctic's brush. I think it's the kind of thing you can probably get from places like Michael's for next to nothing. I bought it from a Chinese shop in Moreira in the south of Spain a couple of years ago. And it was some ridiculous price, but it's just as good as any other, so just go for whatever. So what we need for this is we need a light blue. So I'm choosing here an old Holland turquoise, which is quite a nice granulating colour. So I'm hoping that's going to work. And I'm going to put that side by side with probably ultramarine blue, which is this is French ultramarine, and you could use phthalo blue, which is a much greener. I'm letting these blend because that's what we're going to want to do on the paper. It's a much greener blue, if you see what I mean. So there's that. And then we're going to want dioxazine purple or violet, which is a mauve, any kind of mauve purple colour, like that. Isn't that great the way that runs? And then we're going to need a nice dark. So you could use Payne's grey, which is just like that, as it is grey. Or if you have it, you could use neutral tint, which is exactly what it says. It's a colour that was developed to be used with other colours in order to dull them down or grey them off. And so it's a warm grey. So Payne's grey, this one is a cold grey, cool grey. And neutral tint is slightly warmer. So you pay your money and you take your choice. I don't know which one I'm going to use. Probably go with the Payne's grey to be on the safe side, to be honest. But so there we are. Those are the colours I'm using. I've got my little dishes here. I've doubled up on the dioxazine in case I need more. I don't know how it's going to go. So I've never done this before. So I'll pop that there so I can see the colours that I'm going to use. And I'll get rid of my dabbing cloth. Do you like this? This is, I use this for just dabbing off my brush to get the excess water off. That's upside down. The Isle of Arran distillers. Bought that as a souvenir from the distillers on the Isle of Arran in Scotland. When Tamsin and I went up there to celebrate my 50th birthday, we went and walked around the island, climbed Goat Fell, did a lot of things as a commemoration of my 50th and her 25th birthday. And she was actually conceived on the Isle of Arran, so it was all a very sentimental trip, which was rather nice. So that reminds me of that. So anyway, getting back to the matter in hand, I need a big brush now, and I'm going to use my Ron Ranson. I've no idea how this is going to turn out. I've never done this before, so. My Ron Ranson Hake or Hake brush by Pro Art, and I'm just going to wet this paper. I've taped it down. I should have stretched it. I keep meaning to stretch a bunch of paper in the evening, but I'm being very lazy and remiss, and I haven't. So I'm going to have to tolerate the cockling of the paper. It's bound to bend. I'm using Bockingford 140-pound cellulose paper, which has a wonderful texture. I used that to do this test strip on too, and it seems to be quite good for blends. So there's quite a lot of water on there, and I'm going to then go back to this brush, I think, and pick up some French ultramarine, and I'm going to, oh, look at that, dab it in. That spread, didn't it? Probably best not to control it too much. Make sure that the tape is stuck down properly. And then I'll come in with the violet. And I'm going to have to, I think the important thing probably is to make sure that you don't cover all the light areas straight away. I think it's also possible that you might want to keep it lighter at the bottom. I'm not quite sure. This is a bit of an experiment, really. We'll see how it goes. And maybe you know, they say, don't they? They say, oh, you know, this is really relaxing. Actually, it's you get a bit kind of nerve-wracked because you think, oh, it's not going to work. So having covered the paper with paint, the thing to do now is probably hope and pray that it's going to blend. Doesn't look much like a night sky to me at the moment. Let's put some more dark blue in. I'll switch to the phthalo blue here and see whether that works. Perhaps that will give us a darker thing. And I think this is where you have to be patient and say, okay, right, now I'm going to let that sit. And I'm just spattering a bit more water on in the middle to form the basis for the stars. I have no idea if that's going to work either. So let's put that aside, let it dry, and pray. Say a little prayer for me. Okay, so that's now dry, and we need to do the second layer now. So I'm going to re-wet the whole thing, just very lightly going over the top with water. Try not to disturb anything underneath. It's very easy to do that, so you don't want to brush too hard. It could spray. It's not a bad idea to spray it. And now I'm going to emphasize the colors. Where I've got mauve, I'm going to put more mauve, just dabbing it in. Rather than stroking, just dabbing like this. And in between brush strokes, when you change colors, do wash out your brush. I'm putting turquoise in now. Yeah, do wash out your brush, because otherwise you'll end up with lots of greys, and we don't really want that. We want to see individual colors. So I just go with the turquoise down here as well. And, you know, think light and dark. You want contrast, you want tonality, because that's what makes a painting interesting, really. So where you've got a light area, don't go over it all the time, just leave some areas light. And try not to get any straight lines. I noticed that I had a straight line here, which I'm going to try to get rid of, where the water had. This is the problem when you've been lazy and you haven't stretched your paper, or it's not on a block. If you buy blocks, that's a good idea, because they don't cockle so much. But if you've got just sheets like I have, because they're cheaper, they do cockle if you don't stretch them. So again, you pay your money and you take your choice. Okay, so trying not to have too much in the way of dents of paint accumulating. And that looks quite nice where I've got a really strong bit there, so maybe I'll try and make another strong bit down here. Okay, we might want to let that dry now, I think, or use a hairdryer on it to speed it up. Okay, now this is the bit where it gets really scary, and I don't know how this is going to work out. So I am going to try to bring in the night sky from the outside edge, and I'm just dropping, this is Payne's grey, looks like black, and I'm going to drop that in all the way around the lighter areas, or the edges, should I say, not the lighter areas, the edges. The whole edge of the paper painting. And we want it, I think, to blend smoothly, I think. So I'm going to add a bit more water. Like I said, this is a new one for me. This making these videos is a definite learning process for everyone, all of us. So we want these edges where the black meets the colour to be blended, not sharp lines. And if we do get a dry line like that, we can always lift it up a little bit. I'm going to put a bit more purple in here. And a bit more blue. Definitely have a problem with this paper cockling, so I'm going to try another one after this using stretched paper. Try and get rid of those lines if possible. I'm just lifting out some of the colour now to see if that improves it. I feel I want to put a bit of blue into the black because I don't know, I don't feel that the sky is ever completely black. So I'm going to mix some ultramarine in with the Payne's grey. Because some Payne's greys are very bluish. This one isn't. This one isn't blue at all. It's very blackish. So I'm going to make it bluer by adding French ultramarine. And yeah, I do think that you need to intensify this quite a bit because it will dry lighter. It's really a fantasy painting. Isn't it? bit more purple there, perhaps. Maybe a bit more green, turquoise. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to let that dry now. Okay, so this is dry, and I think probably everyone would agree that it looks pretty much of a mess at the moment. I think hot mess is something that is an expression I've learned from Americans, and it is. It looks terrible, but we're going to soldier on. I've got here this is some white gouache, opaque white watercolor. That's what that means. This is chroma white. I don't know if you can still buy this, but it is a waterproof white, basically, gouache, and it will do stars. So I'm going to start with a toothbrush, and I've just squeezed some out and softened it with a tiny bit of water, and I'm just going to spray the most distant stars, which is going to give me a tiny specks of white. I need a little bit more water, and then I'll get slightly bigger stars, and I'm going to go over the whole thing to give myself the effect of various sized, some near, some far. And it's much quicker this way than using just a brush. And they look really good on the bits where you've got the night sky. And then you might want to do some big ones. So you might take your rigger, and I think I'm going to be famous for never being able to lay my hands on my rigger, which has disappeared again. So I'll use a sword liner instead. I've said that before a few times too. And now I'm going to just soften it up a bit more, and we'll do just a few big ones like that. I'm not a very random, well, I am a very, very random person, but I'm not random enough to be able to randomly place stars. I have to rely on the powers of randomness to be able to do that. And then I'm going to do if I can find something that I can use, a thin brush. There's a little one. This is a size 3, I think, or something like that. And then I'm just going to clean the brush. Do a shooting star, as you do. We all have to have a shooting star from time to time. And then we need to revert to our Payne's grey, and we're going to put some pine trees, some fir trees. Well, you could put mountains, I suppose, or you could put just trees. And the way to decide about that, I think, is to get a piece of tracing paper and lay it over the top of your hot mess, and then try, perhaps with a Sharpie, you can draw in alternative options. So, for example, if you wanted, you could have this as a mountain range. You could have a mountain range, so you just sketch that in roughly to give you an idea, and then you can say to yourself, I don't know, maybe it would be better if it had trees on that edge there. Oh my God, this thing smells. Or you could say, no, I don't like that anyway, so I'm going to perhaps I'll do some trees, just trees. So pine trees, of course. So you could just draw them in until you get an arrangement that you like. And without committing yourself to messing up your masterpiece. So something like that, ignore that line, that was just a scribble, something like that. And you know what, you could actually, if you could stand the smell, you could actually use a Sharpie to do this if you wanted to, rather than paint, but I think I'm going to do it with paint. And I'm going to try to activate the random bone in my body, the completely random bone. I'm going to mix a bit of purple with a bit of Payne's grey and a bit of ultramarine to give me a nice dark colour. Something like that, rather than dead black. And then following my rough thingy, what's it? I'm going to put in a vertical line of sorts. Gonna need plenty of paint for this. And then we want as random as possible the branches on this fir tree. I don't have a very strong affinity with firs, it has to be said. When we lived in Canada, I found them rather unfriendly. I was always longing for oak trees, being as I'm from Europe. But they are beautiful in their way. And they are kind of, what do you call it, de rigueur for this kind of painting. As we get to the bottom, we'll kind of darken it down a little bit. There's a lot of people on Pinterest and on here, on YouTube, and all over the place, doing this kind of painting. And I want to give credit where credit is due. I watched a tutorial by a lady called Colby Bloom. Oh, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's what it looks like. Or, I don't know, but anyways, Kolbe, Colby, perhaps, who showed me how to do this. And if you want to go and take a look at her website and her tutorials, she specializes in this kind of thing. So, credit where credit is due. This isn't my specialism. I don't know what my specialism is. It certainly isn't this, but so variety of height, variety of size and thickness. So we'll put a thin one here, perhaps. Best thing to do is not to pay too much attention to your background, otherwise known as the hot mess. I like that expression. It makes me think of so many things. What was I saying? Yes, don't pay too much attention to the background. Don't think, oh, I'm spoiling it. Because it doesn't matter. It's only a piece of paper. I wish I was better at doing this kind of thing. I envy people who can just paint random branches on random trees in a random fashion. Why can't I do that? Because, as they say, the psychologists, the brain is designed to make a pattern out of everything and to organize things. You wouldn't think that if you saw my house, but it's true, I suppose. We do try to have order. So, to make things random, you tend to line things up. You put lines parallel rather than unparallel, and you do the dots all the same size rather than varying them. You have to make an absolute effort. Okay, and we'll put one over here just to make sure we've completely ruined it. No, I'm just kidding. It's only a piece of paper. Okay. That'll do for now. Now, do you think I need any more stars? I'm going to, this is Winsor & Newton white ink. If I could find my rigger, which I can't, again, I would use that. But I can't find it, so I'm going to use an ordinary brush. Tamsin, you haven't seen my rigger, have you?
I'm afraid not.
No? Very annoying. I keep losing it.
Hasn't rolled under the tray, has it?
No, I looked. Okay, so we'll use this. Just a few more bright stars, like that. I don't know when the last time was I saw a starry sky quite as well endowed with stars. Just make that one a bit bigger. Could call that a planet. Oh, these are satellites, of course. It's taken some of the magic out of the sky for me, because I know that about half of the bodies that you can see up there floating around are not real stars. It's a bit sad, really. Anyway, so there we are. I'm going to reveal the painting now. And here's a tip when you've used masking tape. Two things. If you think it's going to stick, or even if you don't, it's not a bad idea to warm it up using a trusty hairdryer. And that causes it to release its grip a little bit. But when you pull it off, pull it at 90 degrees to the surface of the paper and do it slowly. And with any luck, you won't tear the paper. If you pull it like this, it's much more likely to rip. So you have to take your time and hold it at 90 degrees like that. And if you've stuck it down nice and firmly, and if you had good masking tape in the first place, you should get a nice clean line. It's such a shame if it does rip the paper, as it so very, very often does. Partly that was part of the reason I started to use washi tape a bit more often. But the trouble with that is it doesn't always, you know, you can't win, can you really? Because if it sticks firmly and keeps the paint out from underneath it, like this has, then there's a chance it's going to rip the paper. And if it comes off the paper easily, then the chances are it's going to let the paint go through. So this hasn't done too badly, not too much bleeding, just a little tiny bit up the top there. So try to keep it vertical. Phew, there we are then. So that's that. That's a night sky. Imagination rules, okay, with lots of stars and a few trees down the bottom. Give it a try. It's easier than you think. So I'll let you go. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a like if you've got a spare one going, and leave your comments below. And this was on a piece of Bockingford paper, this one. Cheap paper. Doesn't seem to have a problem with this concept. So I'll see you again soon, everybody. Bye for now. Bye-bye.